Before this video gets underway, I want you to say this. Lego, I'm not gonna get pissed off at you for this list, because this is not my list. It's not. It's the Hockey News. They had themselves their Future Watch edition of the magazine earlier in April, I believe. If it wasn't April, then it might have been May. I don't know. It was from somewhere around then. And what they did was they made a list of the top 10 prospects for every NHL team. There are 32 different articles, all with lists and analyses done on each of these prospects. And what I wanted to do for the Montreal Canadiens was look at their top 5. So, if anybody goes out there and disagrees with the list, the order, the players, whatever, please don't get mad at me. I'm just the messenger here. I'm using this article in the magazine to create content because I think it's interesting. And because I'm not going to go out there and just steal everything that the magazine has to offer, I'm going to do the top 5. The top 10 with analyses on all the guys is in the magazine if you want to go ahead and read it, but because this is short-form video content and I don't want to spend only a minute talking about each prospect, we're doing the top 5. And so without further ado, these are, in the eyes of the Hockey News, the top 5 prospects for the Montreal Canadiens. You know what, actually? We can say number 10 to 6, right? Just so you get an idea of who's missing from this top 5. The 10th best prospect, according to the Hockey News, is Jan Mysak. The 9th best is Mattias Norlinder. 8th overall is Riley Kidney. 7th overall is Logan Mailloux. And 6th overall is Josh Waugh. So there you go. These are the guys that are omitted from the top 5. Before we get into this too, I also wanted to say that the Hockey News gave the Canadiens a ranking of a B+ in their prospect system, and this is the 11th best prospect pool, according to the folks over at the Hockey News. They do this every year. They tally up which teams have the best prospect pool, and it's normally the teams with the most rebuilding assets. So Montreal, even though they were a lot higher up on the list before, you can see the little chart there saying in 2021 they had the 5th best prospect pool, in 2022 the 23rd. Nowadays they're 11th, but also I will say that this list does not include Slafkovsky, who was 1st overall last year, so there definitely is an omission or two that makes this interesting. But without further ado, let's head over to the top 5 prospects of the Montreal Canadiens, starting out with the 5th overall name, Sean Farrell. Left wing, 21 years old, 5'9", 175 pounds. The article doesn't have the numbers here, but he had 53 points in 34 Harvard Crimson games in the NCAA. He was taken in the 2020 draft 124th overall, and the write-up says this. Sean Farrell is an outstanding playmaker and shifty skater who is confident with the puck. He was one of the most impressive players at Habs 2022 development camp. He competes hard and, despite his size, is unafraid to go to hard areas and score goals. He has been able to generate offense everywhere he has played, including at last year's Olympics, where he led Team USA with 6 points in 4 games. It'll be interesting to see if he decides to turn pro at the end of his sophomore season. The article then projects Sean Farrell as being an NHL talent in 2025-2026, and last year he was the 6th best Canadiens prospect. It's interesting to note because he is 21 years old, the time is sort of ticking there, but as a small forward with some bite, Sean Farrell has definitely been one of the more impressive prospects the Habs have had in their system. As a guy taken as late as he was in the draft, it's incredible to see the development so far. And if you're able to get even some semblance of an NHL player, that's a huge win for a player taken in the, 124th overall, so that's the 4th round of the 2020 draft. If at the very least you get yourselves a middle 6 scorer who's got really good bite, that's a huge win, and he's listed at number 5 because of it. Moving over to the 4th best Canadiens prospect, it is Justin Barron, defenseman, 21 years old, 6'2", 201, playing for Laval in the AHL. This season he had 15 points in 39 Canadiens games and 16 points in 25 Laval games. So he did split his time. He was a sort of productive defenseman. I mean, realistically, the numbers there are not terrible, especially for a guy that's just a rookie. So there definitely is a lot more to see out of Barron. But the write-up says this here. Justin Barron was expected to start in the NHL this season after being acquired from Colorado in the Arturi Lehkonen deal last year. But he had a disappointing training camp and began the season with the AHL, while 4 other rookie defensemen made the Habs. Barron has offensive talent but must improve his defensive play and physicality. Injuries resulted in Barron getting called up after Christmas. The fact that he's a right-shot defenseman works in his favor long-term. The article says that he will be an NHL player in 23-24, and last year he was the first-ranked prospect in the Colorado prospect system. Now he is the 92nd best prospect overall, according to the Hockey News, and a player who is poised to making his full-time Canadiens debut next season. Now, whether or not that does happen, I would be more inclined to think that it does, just because the Canadiens would probably like to see this guy flex his muscles at the NHL level a little bit, and at the very least, showcase his shot, showcase his playmaking, showcase his offensive skill a little bit more at this level. He's a talented guy, and he is 4th overall because of it. Moving over onto the 3rd overall spot of Canadiens' top prospects, according to the Hockey News, they've got Owen Beck, 19-year-old center, 6 feet 190 from Peterborough, as the next guy. The article doesn't mention it, but Owen Beck this previous season for the Peterborough Petes had 25 points in 30 games, over a point per game with the Mississauga Steelheads. His production did decline when he got traded to Peterborough, but that's because Peterborough was such a stacked team and he was one of many phenomenal pieces. They were kind of loading up for the postseason. You can't really blame them for that. He also did play a game with the regular Canadiens and had 0 points, but he did look okay in the game that he had. He's only 18, 19 years old. It's fine. The article here says this, that Owen Beck is a solid 200-foot player and almost made the NHL club out of camp. He was the CHL Scholastic Player of the Season last year, and he is a student of the game, said co-director of amateur scouting Martin Lepoint. He's a good student in school, he's got A's at school, he does A things on the ice. Beck is a very good skater and is good on the dot. He's below the puck all the time. He just plays the right way. Beck made his NHL debut January 28th as an emergency call-up. The article here then says that Beck is likely going to make his full-time Montreal Canadiens tenure known in 2024-2025, which is a pretty appropriate timeline, I feel, for what he's going to be able to do. Solid two-way center with some very good defensive capabilities, who is doing his thing in the OHL and who got a cup of coffee at the National Hockey League level. Owen Beck is definitely looking like one of these better picks to be taken in the second round of 2022, but there are 2 prospects ahead of him in terms of the Hockey News list. The second one is Lane Hudson. Overall, he is the 65th best prospect, and even though he had all the numbers, even though he was so good in the NCAA, the article and the list does not seem to be too high on him. This is what the write-up says. Lane Hudson must gain weight and get stronger, but this kid has a big brain, said Bobrov. His hockey sense is very interesting. He has a chip on his shoulder that is very real. The size does not deter him. Hudson could help quarterback Montreal's, oh boy, belugered power play. What a word. He's already making highlight reel plays as an NCAA freshman at BU. You have to go after these types of defensemen because they're hard to find, Bobrov said. We have big hopes for him. The article then says that Lane Hudson is going to be an NHL regular in 2026-2027. And realistically, for a guy that had over a point per game as a freshman in the NCAA, I'm inclined to believe that Hudson probably could play in the NHL if he wanted to next season, but we know that he is spending another year in the collegiate system, so I don't know. 2026, 2027 is so far away. I don't really know if Lane Hudson is not going to make the NHL until then, assuming everything goes right with his development. Either way, though, that's what the Hockey News goes out there and says. If you disagree with it, hey, I'm just the messenger here. Please don't kill me. First overall, though, on the Montreal Canadiens top prospects list, according to the Hockey News, is Filip Mesar. 2022 draft, 26th overall. Montreal chose to send Mesar to the OHL so he could keep developing his offensive game without worrying so much about defense. Habs co-director of amateur scouting Nick Bobrov said Mesar is fast, skilled, slippery, and smart, adding that he can skate, make plays, and has a really good brain. Mesar and Juraj Slafkovsky were childhood friends in Slovakia. During camp, defenseman Chris Weidman called them Batman and Robin because they were always together. The article then says that Mesar is going to start his full-time NHL career in 2025-2026. This previous season, he was under a point per game with the Kitchener Rangers, and it's a pretty big step up offensively from what he had last year. Of course, playing in the top Slovak league, he's not really going to get the most minutes nor the best opportunities, so just seeing him be able to work and get that offense going, it's a pretty good sign. We'll see where he goes next season, whether it's the full-time AHL or if the Canadiens give him a chance, but for now, Mesar is labeled as the top prospect in the Montreal Canadiens system. Mesar, Hudson, Beck, Barron, Farrell as your top 5, and then you've got Mailloux, Kidney, Norlinder, and Mysak as your 6 to 10. What do you think about this list? What do you think about the choices of the players? What do you think about the Hockey News' write-up on each of these names? Do you agree, disagree? Do you think somebody should be rated higher? Let me know in the comments all your opinions about this list and more down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.